The BBI report proposes the election of members of the county assemblies rather than nominations in order to achieve the two-thirds gender principle. Currently, immediately after elections, nomination of MCAs to be able to meet the two-thirds gender principle is undertaken. The BBI report proposes it in this manner. And I'll use the example of Nairobi County so that one may be able to understand. Nairobi County has 85 wards. Assuming that Nairobi County elects 74 men and 11 women, it will mean that there is a shortfall of 26 women. The BBI report proposes that immediately after the general election, there shall be a subsequent election to elect women in order to meet the two-thirds gender principle. This is it is inefficient, it is expensive, and also it will mean that the county assemblies shall come to a standstill and not be able to operate immediately after the general elections as they wait for the subsequent elections. The BBI report does not inform us the manner in which the wards that the women shall be elected from shall be selected. It does not give us a criteria. It will also mean that instead of serving Kenyans immediately after elections, the county assemblies shall have to be at a standstill and wait for the subsequent elections to happen. That format or suggestion by BBI makes no sense to anyone at all. It is counterproductive, it is expensive, and it is only sowing seeds of total havoc and confusion at our counties after the election. The BBI report is being presented to Kenyans as if it is one good document that is going to change positively the lives of Kenyans. But that is not true. There are two BBIs. There is the Mwana Siasa BBI and there is the Mwana Inchi BBI. The Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real BBI that is being fronted, is about creating the positions of Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, extra cabinet secretaries. It is also the Mwana Siasa BBI is about having unilateral power over IEBC. It is about taking away the independence of the judiciary. That is the real BBI. The Mwana Inchi BBI, which they are trying to bring to the fore and use it to blind us, is the one that talks about grace period for HELB loans for young people. It talks about tax holidays for young people and young businesses. It talks about prompt payment of persons who have delivered goods to the government. It's got the Health Commission, the Ward Development Fund. That is the Mwana Inchi BBI that they're trying to sell to us. But this Mwana Inchi BBI is all those goodies in the Mwana Inchi BBI is intended to escort the Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real project and intention that they have. Remember that all those goodies in the Mwana Inchi BBI are capable of being implemented through legislative amendments, legislative changes, and administrative action by the government. Remember that when they set up BBI, did they require any constitutional amendment to bring BBI to the people? No. Did they have a constitutional amendment in order to be able to spend taxpayers' money to promote BBI? No. But why is it now to tell me that you want to give loans or money to youth to start businesses, you now require a constitutional amendment? It is important that Kenyans focus on the Mwana Siasa BBI, which is the real intention. The Mwana Inchi BBI is only to blind us to be able to push their real agenda under the Mwana Siasa BBI. The BBI report proposes the establishment of a youth commission and a ward development fund. It goes on to say that in order for the ward development fund and the youth commission to be established, the parliament shall pass legislation, enacting legislation to put the Youth Commission and the Ward Development Fund in place. Unfortunately, the BBI report does not give a specific timeline within which that legislation must be enacted by Parliament. It only gives what they are calling suggested timeline. And neither does it give any consequences or any action that can be taken should Parliament fail to pass that legislation. Currently, under the Constitution, any laws under the 5th schedule that are required to be passed have a specific timeline, and if Parliament fails to enact that legislation, there is specific action that can be taken, and that there is consequences where Parliament can be dissolved. If the proponents of BBI truly committed to setting up a ward development fund and committed to setting up a youth commission, then there should be consequences should Parliament fail to pass this legislation. These two items, the ward development fund and the youth commission, are very good things for Kenyans, but they are using that to hoodwink us. There is no clear commitment that this legislation will be enacted within a specific time frame. So Kenyans, be aware of being hoodwinked. The proponents of BBI have suggested that they take away the guaranteed women seats in the National Assembly and move them all to the Senate. That is besides the point completely. The issue was not just to have women in Parliament to sit there as flower girls. It was intended that women's voices and views can be heard across the decision-making table in government. Therefore, we require women in the National Assembly. The National Assembly deals with oversight of the executive, appointments, and legislation making. Are you saying that the voices of women on legislation making shall be absent if you move all of us to the Senate? And not only do we want women in the National Assembly and in the Senate, we want women as chairpersons of state corporations. They must meet the one-third gender principle, directors of state corporations, as cabinet ministers, as CASs, and as PSs, and even as senior persons within the universities. So we need women voices across the decision-making table. It's not about putting women in one corner and then tell them you should now be satisfied and you have space. And now we're not just talking, and this is about right to equality and human rights, and we're not talking about women only. We also need to have a minimum number of persons representing people with disabilities, representing the youth, representing marginalized communities and minorities across the decision-making table. So this is not just about women. It's about the right to equality and human rights and representation across every sphere